I want to say it's good to see you. It'd be better to see you right now in Seattle in a Mariners uniform. We're going to have to wait a little bit for that. There are a lot of things I want to get to you on about today, and just most importantly, you have such a unique outlook on dealing with adversity, and it's something that you've been through, and I think we're all going through a little bit of something missing baseball right now, and I think that is something that you can, in particular, help us out with. But before we get to that, I just want to get caught up where you're at right now, how everybody is doing, and what you have been up to in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. Good to see you too. I'm healthy as far as COVID-19 goes. As far as I know, no symptoms. My wife and I feel great. We're just trying to, do the quarantine and help slow the curve. And I think it's really important that everybody just does their part. And I think there's people at risk who will benefit from you staying home, and you may not be at risk. But you can do your part in not spreading it. So I think that's really important first off. And, we're doing good. My recovery is going well. I'm just doing a lot of core exercises right now, trying to get back some core strength and mobility throughout my body, and staying in contact with the guys on the Mariners training staff, and just working with them to try to keep this thing rolling in the right direction, so I don't get behind in my rehab through this tough time where, can't go to the complex every day.
Are you in Arizona right now, or are you in California?
I'm in California.
Okay. Do you have to do all of that on your own, or are you able to work with somebody on that rehab stuff?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to work with anyone right now because of the quarantine effect, and rehab facilities being shut down, at least for temporarily right now. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, everything gets rolling and I can go and start seeing someone. But right now in this recovery, I can pretty much do almost everything on my own. Now, granted, it would be nice to work with someone, to have someone taking me through each exercise, but Bitzel does a great job, and Kyle does a great job trying to help me navigate that on my own right now.
Yeah, I hear they're checking in with everybody, the medical staff, every day to make sure everybody's okay, whether they have an injury they're working through or not.
Right, yeah.
Can you kind of walk us back to that last week in Peoria? I'd really like to hear what that was like from a player's perspective. I think it was that Tuesday night when it really kind of caught our attention with the NBA, and then things got moving really quickly.
Yeah, that was a whirlwind. It seems like it was months ago, even though it was only a couple weeks ago. And I thought, I showed up, I think it was on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and, it was kind of everything was coming to a head and getting crazy. And just every couple hours, it seemed like our plans drastically changed. It was like, everything's going to be okay. We're safe here. And then it was like, take care of yourself and your families, do everything you possibly can. So it was just kind of unexpected, and it's kind of scary to see how fast something can spread like this. So like I said earlier, I think it's really important that people take it seriously and just do their part.
Was there a realization for you? What kind of struck you that, I'm probably going to be okay, but I got to look out for others here?
Just going off of what health experts say, and trying to be smart, and, like everyone's saying, just wash your hands a lot, try not to touch your nose and face, try not to touch your mouth, just doing the little stuff that I think will make a big difference, and as well as, trying to eat really healthy and take certain supplements that will help your immunity. And like I said earlier, you may not be directly affected by this virus, or you may contract it and not even show symptoms, but you're putting people at risk if you're going into large gatherings. So I think it's smart right now to try to avoid that, and hopefully this thing passes sooner than later.
You mentioned eat correctly. I know that's something that you do all of the time, but more than ever, what are some of the things that you're trying to do right now and think others probably should too?
I guess nothing too different than the norm. I try to eat just a lot of fruits and vegetables, and good quality source, try to eat organic, try to eat grass-fed meat, free-range chicken, free-range eggs, stuff like that. And, I've been upping my vitamin C daily supplement to twice a day instead of just once a day. And I think another supplement that people can look for that will really help with immunity is zinc, and then at night magnesium. Most people, from what I've heard and understood, can be deficient in magnesium, and I've noticed a help in my sleep quality by taking magnesium. But always consult the doctor before you decide to take any supplements.
The doctor before the slugger. No, but I mean, you've been so invested in your nutrition for so long. It was interesting to hear what you were doing there. And I second the magnesium. Something calm, I forgot what it was that I was taking. That was something that definitely helps at night. Another thing that helps at night, I found last night, was on our flagship station. Of course, we have no baseball games right now, no live baseball games, but we are running the classics. And it was nice to be able to turn on the radio last night or turn on the television and see some baseball, but everybody is missing it. They're really feeling it right now. And you know a little something about that. I know it's a different situation and that we're talking about a world situation and a lot more going on, but man, I know you miss baseball when you are hurt. What are some of the things that you do to deal with that?
I like watching highlights, and obviously, like you said, watching past games and cool things like that. I think that definitely helps fill the big spot in our hearts where we're all missing baseball, and we're all excited to hopefully get back out there as soon as possible once everything calms down and once it's safe to resume. But for me personally, I just kind of go back to time being hurt was really difficult, not to be on the field, not being able to do my typical normal routine, but also it's just being able to adapt and adjust to what I'm able to do and control what I can control. And that's basically the whole philosophy behind everything I believe in, is kind of not worrying about things that are out of your control, although it can be hard at times, but building that mental resiliency to be able to focus on things you can control, not worry about external events that you can't control, and just try to get through it and try to look at the positive side of things.
How have you applied that to what we're going through right now?
So for instance, what we're going through right now, it can be very difficult for people because you can't resume in your normal routine or your normal life. You can't see a ton of family and friends like I would want to. So for me, just trying to stay in contact with my friends more than I typically do when my schedule is really busy, when I'm at the field for 6 to 8 hours a day. Now I can call friends more often, take advantage of it in that way, talk to my parents more often, call my grandma, spend a lot of time with my wife. And, those are some positives that you can look at and you can try to get out of this situation. And also for me, trying to focus on, I love self-improvement type stuff because I feel like I'm always trying to improve to help my performance on the field and to help my life off the field. Managing stress, doing stuff like that, making sure I'm sleeping and eating right. And you got all the more time in the world to focus on those things right now. So, there's some definite negatives, and I feel for a lot of people for what they might be going through as far as the illness goes, or just not being able to work or being, and unfortunately in some scenarios being laid off. And that's got to be really difficult. And, we're here to hopefully support you, but at the same time, there can be something that's taken out of even a bad situation. If that's where I think like a gratefulness practice can come into a really helpful scenario where, if you're watching this interview between me and you right now and you're a fan, you most likely have an internet and a TV or a tablet or in a smartphone, and you have probably food, water, and shelter. And those are things that not everyone on this earth are blessed to have. So you should be thankful for those things and remind yourself of that. And I think that can really help your mindset.
You talked a little bit when you got to camp this year that in the off season you got into meditation, and that was something that helped you. How did you get into that, and how did that progress with you? I started getting into meditation in college. But it's kind of grown more and more each year since then. There's been years where, kind of looking back, my best years statistically and just off the field with life in general, my happiest moments are been when I was consistently meditating and taking that time for stillness is what they call, and just trying to get into a relaxed state to where your worries or your stresses can calm down or go away. And
I think it's really important. It's really helped me, and I hope people give it a shot. And I think there's some really, with all the social media nowadays, you can follow some really smart people and some really cool people that offer advice in that area. And there's some amazing apps out there like Headspace, or the one I currently use now is Waking Up by Sam Harris, and also Vision Pursue. That was an app that our old mental strength coach, Darren McMahon's got me on. It's kind of pointed directly for athletes. So it's got great meditations on there. And I think people can, right, like I said earlier, you don't have, a lot of people say, well, I don't have enough time in my day to meditate. And although now you might have a little bit more, if you have a family and kids, it can be really difficult. You're at home all day with your kids, and it's hard to carve out, 5 minutes. But I think if you wake up 5 minutes earlier, or you stay up 5 minutes later at night, you'd be surprised how easy it is to squeeze in a practice. And I think there's a really good book that's helped me kind of focus on developing better habits. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talks about how you can habit stack. For instance, if you're brewing a cup of coffee while you're waiting for it to brew, you can sit down and do a meditation in that 2 minutes, and it doesn't add any more stress to your day. If anything, it's going to help your day. And I think was a really good book, and I think a lot of people would gain a lot from reading it.
How does it fit into your regimen?
Typically in the mornings, like I said, I'll usually when I love coffee, so in the morning I usually will drink tea first, and I usually go stretch while the tea's steeping and boiling, and then typically when I'm making coffee, about an hour later is when I'll go do some breathing and do some meditation real quick, and then I always do it right before I go to sleep. I find that it helps me get relaxed, and is really helpful with that.
Those are great tips. I'm going to try a couple of them. I hope everybody else does too, because there's certainly, a lot that we have to let go of at the end of the day, without question. Really appreciate the tips on that front. What about on the baseball side? Let's go ahead and take it back to spring training. I know that you were dealing with what you were dealing with, but how different was that clubhouse for you this year?
There's some new faces, very young this year. For me personally, I felt like I wasn't able to, it was harder for me to connect with a lot of the guys because I was spending much more time in the training room and not on the field with guys. And it kind of, now looking forward, I'm going to appreciate being on the field so much more than I ever have before, having that, taken away from you. And the same thing with the virus going on now, when we're able to go out to dinner with friends. I think you're going to appreciate that so much more than after going through something like this. So that's another positive way to look at it. And, typically for spring training day, you go take BP, you're shagging, that's an hour at least right there. Typically there's a guy next to you that you're talking with and getting to know better. You're in the cage hitting, doing your early work in the morning, you're doing a lift, you're going through stretch lines, there's multiple hours where you're connecting with your teammates that I didn't have a chance to do because I was rehabbing. But at the same time, I developed some better relationships with guys who were going through the rehab process with me as well. That goes back to last year. I felt like I got a lot closer with Chase and Bradford, and we were able to kind of lean on each other throughout the late summer and off season, and stayed in contact with each other. And it's always good having someone go through something similar to you to kind of pick each other's brain and share each other's thoughts and feelings. And he's been a huge help for me.
It's good to see Jason get out on the field the last couple of days. I remember seeing him play catch, and that was great to see. It's been a tough road for him.
Definitely, yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you in spring training, and you were hard to find because you were in the trainer's room, and I can't go in there. Yeah. In the off season, I put out a tweet that I don't like the idea of Roboumps. And one of the reasons I don't like it is what it's going to do to catchers. And I think that's just one of the most interesting positions on the field. And if I remember correctly, I think you liked that tweet. What are your feelings on the automatic umpires or the electronic umpires in strike zone?
I think right now I stand by liking that tweet, and I I think our umpires do a good job. I think they're human. I think it's part of the game. I know a lot of them work really hard at trying to improve and looking at their charts after games, whether they miss certain calls, and I think that's really important. Just because as a player we focus so much on our performance and trying to improve. It's really good to see that they're doing the same. And I just don't know if I trust the technology quite yet. And that's just my personal stance, my personal opinion. And I think it's going to drastically affect the catching position, as far as you're not going to – typically you want your catcher to be really good defensively. You want him to be really good pitch framer, really good guy who blocks balls in dirt and throws guys out. And I think it might kind of turn into, let's just throw a guy back there who hits well, and it takes away that position from a lot of the really good defensive catchers. And I think if you look around the league, catchers play, there's a lot of veteran catchers that play for a long time, because it's really hard to find a really good defensive catcher that can command a bullpen and command a starting pitcher, and that can connect with his pitchers and knows which button to press with which guy. And that's something that's really impressed me with Tom Murphy. I feel like he does a great job with that, and he takes a lot of pride in his defense. And I don't want to see that getting taken away from a guy like him. And although Tom is a great hitter, and I think he's just starting to show what he's capable of, I think it's only going to get better and better.
How do you think Tom's doing in the woods right now?
He's getting after it. I know that. I've been seeing some of his videos. That guy's a tremendous worker, great teammate. So, trying to stay in contact with him and learn from him. He's a really bright guy.
Yeah, I've seen some of his tweets and Instagram posts, and it's funny because you learn more about people when you're separated. There's sometimes stuff that comes out in text that doesn't come out when they're right next to you. Right.
Yeah, that's something that I'm trying to do a better job. I think Tom probably thought the same as me. Like, I'm going to start sharing some more stuff to hopefully help someone. I try to stay off of social media and my computer as much as possible, just to be more in the moment and stop scrolling through unneeded stuff that, you look down and you wasted 30, 40 minutes just on your phone. So try not to be on there and as much as possible, but I think it can be very useful if used right. And that's just having balance and awareness with where you're at each day.
The key is to be intentional with your social media.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, you brought up one thing in the umpires, and I'm glad you said that, because I don't think that people really understand this, but I had the opportunity to talk with a few this off season, and it really struck me that as the umpires get younger, they approach games like you guys do. I mean, the preparation that they put in and the review and going over their numbers, it really blew me away. And the guys that I talked to really took pride in their evaluations and their numbers and what they did as well. And it was really an eye-opener for me. It almost seemed like they were kind of like almost peers. I know they're a little bit older than you, but they're really attacking it the way that the younger side of baseball is right now.
Yeah, I think it goes along with the younger type of player who's like looking more, trying to learn some things from analytics, trying to learn some things from certain wearable data that you can gain from, whether it's a swing mechanics thing or, an Aura ring or a whoop band for recovery and training, stuff like that. It's really good to see. Yeah. And I think, a veteran player may never have had those things available to him when he was younger. So not to say that they're set in their ways and that's not a good thing. If you're a veteran guy who's played for a while, you know what you need to do to play and improve and keep doing what you're doing. But I think for the younger generation, being able to utilize those tools, but I think the key is not getting overwhelmed by it. And but it's really good to see that the younger generation umpires, I'm sure they're all into it, and it's great. I think it's really going to help. And I like seeing someone take pride in their job and doing everything they can to improve, and that fires me up.
All right, let's get back to you in present day right now. How are you using your time right now?
A lot of stretching, a lot of core exercises, a lot of walking. I've been to the grocery store one time. I stocked up on a whole bunch of stuff, not hoping to have to go back for at least another week, maybe, 5 to 7 days. My wife and I would just walk our dog a ton keep our distance when we see people, and give them a friendly hello, and keep going. And like I said, reading, meditation, staying in contact with friends, just trying to take this time to learn more. I think about myself, learn more about certain topics that are going on around the world, certain, like I said before, self-improvement stuff, whether it's sleep, recovery, whatever it may be, just trying to gain some knowledge in that and take advantage of this time.
Well, Mitch, I really, really appreciate you taking time with us today. I hope that we don't have to stop by and visit like this again. I hope that we see each other in person and in not too long. But if we don't, I would love to check in again and see how you guys are doing and just get some encouragement there. Those are great words that you have and great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Hopefully it helps somebody. And I know a lot of these things we talked about has really helped me. So I know that it will definitely help other people.
Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, thank you.